Welcome to the AR Performance Squash Advantage, hosted by me, Ahad Raza, a former PSA touring pro turned elite performance mentor and coach. I break down tactics, technique, fitness, and mindset by analyzing players from the past and present, both men and women. I aspire to teach, empower, and guide transformation. Let's get started. What's up, everyone? In today's video, we're going to dive deep into some tactics, some patterns, and some technique with these two fantastic players in Sherbini and Amanda Sobhy. The videos we're watching are from the 2021 CIB Black Ball Open. And again, thanks to Squash TV for making all of this available to us. So let's get started. Here's the format. My goal through these videos is to teach and inspire. If I'm not able to help you grow in some way, I'm not fulfilling my purpose, truthfully. So I hope that you're learning, and then I hope that you're taking action with everything. We're going to study patterns, we're going to look at targets, shot selection, tactics, and we're going to compare the two players' techniques on a couple of different types of shots. I know for a fact that you're going to get a ton of value out of this if you go and actually practice and implement everything. Watch the video from start to finish. We're going to cover a lot. It's going to reinforce some things you've been learning from previous videos, and it's going to teach you a whole bunch of new stuff. We're going to watch the tactical element first. I'm going to show you about patterns. We're going to watch a clip in regular speed and then at half speed, and then we're going to talk about it in half speed. Then we go to the technical analysis of the drops, comparing the two different players. So here we go. We're going to watch the first clip in regular speed now. Okay, that was the clip. I hope you have a notebook. I hope you're making some notes with a pen and paper, whatever it is, on your phone, laptop, computer, whatever it is. Make those notes, gather your thoughts, so that now when we review this in half speed, I'm curious to see what kind of notes you have and whether we are on the same page or not. If you need to check it out, watch the clip again. Just go back 10 seconds, 7 seconds, however long it was, watch it again. Let's get into it in slow-mo, half speed. So what you're going to see is that there are actually 5 drives. So 4 drives, and then the 5th one is a cross court. And what you'll notice is that the T position slowly starts shifting. This is that idea of patterns that we talk about. So if you hit 1 straight drive, 1 cross court, your opponent is probably going to be fairly centered on the T because they don't know which side the ball is coming to. If, on the other hand, you hit 4 lengths in a row or 5 lengths in a row, your opponent will gradually start shifting over in the direction of play because that's what they're expecting. So let's see if we can identify this. And this also goes back to the idea of the floating T. There are several names for it. I've always used the floating T, and it's the idea that, and I've discussed this in a previous video, you're never squarely on the T itself. You're usually in and around that region, depending on which part of the court the game is being played in. So here we go. See, Sherbini's T position is it's actually very neutral after the serve. And we have Sobhy's position, relatively neutral, a little bit to the left because the game's being played on that side already. And it's pretty typical to be played down the left-hand side wall. If you remember, Sherbini's position after the serve was here. Now it's drifted back and over to the left a little bit. This is common. Sobhy's position, a little bit more neutral, but still a little bit to the left, and again near the back of the service box. And there's that cross. So Sherbini again a little bit to the left, near the back. After 4 straight drives, the 5th shot Sobhy hit over here is the cross. So she changed the pattern. And you notice her cross court hit the side wall behind the back of the service box, which is a good target because it's putting the ball deep into the back of the court. And if Sherbini's late on it, that ball's going to hit the side wall and angle into this back corner and fade away. So Sherbini's on the ball, and she could probably hit a straight drive from this position, but you'll notice that she comes in and she hits that boast. Now this is risky potentially, depending on the time of play, the movement of your opponent. There are a lot of factors that go into it, but the way you want to think about it generally speaking, and again, this rule doesn't apply all the time, generally speaking, if you're in the back of the court and your opponent is in front of you, if your opponent is fresh and or is a decent mover into the front, unless you hit a wicked boast and you've changed the pattern on them after hitting mostly length, you probably don't want to play that boast. So putting it another way, if your opponent is not a great mover to the front or your opponent is tired, playing the boast from the back can be beneficial, whether it's in a pattern or breaking a pattern. If you've been playing a lot into the back, and even if your opponent is good moving to the front, if you play a quick attacking boast from the back, it will catch your opponent off guard probably, and then it'll force them to adjust their position a little bit. Now in this case, you'll see Sherbini plays the boast. It isn't the best boast, and Sobhy's on it really early, and she's hitting the ball when Sherbini is still behind the back of the service box. So Sherbini's deep in the court, Sobhy's on that ball, and you can see where she's hitting it. She's pretty close to the tee and the short line, to be honest. That boast has come out pretty far back, so it's not a great boast. Now, if Sherbini had been playing to the back a lot, especially from the back corners, Sobhy's a bit deep, and that was a quick, short two-wall attacking boast, it could have been more successful. But in this case, the shot selection and the execution are questionable, which happens to the best of us. Nothing against Sherbini, it happens to all of us. And then Sobhy plays that ball, executes, and Sherbini's not on it. So I wanted to share that with you guys as an example of some tactical work, setting up patterns, changing directions, and then whether you take the ball short from the back or not depends on the timing, on your opponent's speed, their movement, their energy levels, the accuracy of your shot, a whole bunch of variables. So now let's get into Sobhy's drop shot technique. So let me rewind that just a little bit so you can see this. So now you're going to see this in regular speed. You're going to then see it in half speed and then in super slow-mo with all of the details. So again, make your notes. Let's enhance your learning. Video is about to play now. Now let's watch it at half speed. And now we're going to get into it in super slow-mo and break down her technique for you. So she's coming into the shot. Racket is in about a ready position, kind of waist height, a little bit below waist. And she's not coming in early with a really big swing. There's no need. She already knows what shot she's going to hit. That's her prep for this. So she's ready, going to the... Actually, the first thing you want to keep in mind is whichever side the ball is on, you want to try to get your racket in that direction. So in this case, the ball is on the left-hand side of the court, so her racket is out on the left-hand side. If it was on the other side, she would get her racket on the other side. Whether it's up or down, step one is get it in that direction. Now she's here, moving towards the ball, and you can see she's setting up with not a high backswing. There isn't going to be a ton of deception when it comes to this, but she already knows what shot she's hitting. She's going with the game of, I know what shot I'm hitting. I'm going to hit this and execute this well. I'm not worried about deception in the situation. And there are two different ways to think about it, right? You could come in with a big swing and then try to deceive your opponent and stop the ball. And Mohamed Sharbaghi is a great example where he would set up with a big swing and then chop that ball in. That's a ton of deception, requires a lot of skill. Lower percentages because you might hit the tin, you might fluff that ball. You could do other things unless you've practiced it like crazy the way he has. And then the other option, the other way of thinking about it is you're going to go in without a ton of deception, but you're going to execute that consistently. And that's what Sobhy's doing. And Paul Cole is another great example of that. He doesn't have fancy setups. He just goes in and he executes consistently on his shots, especially the drop shots. So you see Sobhy setting up over here, short backswing. She's not trying to deceive. She's giving the shot away. The racket face is open. And let me rewind that a little bit. And what you're going to see is that a few things. One, she's got her other arm out for counterbalance. I've talked about this in a previous video. When you're not under a lot of pressure, you can get that arm out for counterbalance. When you're under a tremendous amount of pressure, you want to put that hand down on the ground because that's going to stop you from going over, and it's going to allow you to recover faster. So that's number one. Number two, the body angle is going into that front corner because she's taking that ball open stance. She's taking that ball in line with that front foot more or less. And then from a technical standpoint, what she's doing here is that her elbow is bent, and you're going to see her release that elbow and release the elbow and the hand and just kind of carve and guide that ball into that front corner. So you're going to see that in a moment as she lets go of the wrist a little bit. And I talked about this actually in another video with Sherbini hitting a drop shot and doing the same thing. And in a moment, we're going to see Sherbini do something as well. So there, now you see the elbow is extending and starting to release a little bit more. Now you see the elbow being released even more. Arm is almost straight. And now there's that wrist, there's the racket, and the racket comes forward. And you see she timed all of that. This is this idea of flow and movement with your shots. All of that momentum that she had stepping into the ball, that all got sent through as that wrist and the elbow extended. It was all put in one fluid movement. So that's what a lot of the best players do really well, is that they don't have breaks in their energy. Everything is very fluid. And I talk about this a lot, and I show you guys how to do this with your movement in my coaching program, Backcourt to Glass Court, which you can check out in the link in this video's description. So that is the analysis of Sobhy's forehand drop. Now let's check out Sherbini's forehand drop. And this is very different, and you'll see. So this is going to be Squash TV slow-mo, and then I'm going to slow it down even more and then analyze it. So get ready to make your notes. You're going to get the extra slow-mo now. And then in a few seconds, you're going to get my super slow-mo with the analysis. So let's start super slow-mo. So number one, I don't know if you guys picked up on this. Other than just everything she did with her wrist and the racket, she did a bunch in order to get into that position. And you'll notice that she uses a lot of small steps and changes her body's angle. So if you remember from Sobhy's analysis, she turned and she was facing the corner in which she was going. And you're going to notice Sherbini takes several steps, several small steps, just to adjust her body position to then be able to reach and execute her shot. And the other thing you'll notice is that she doesn't chase after the ball. This judgment gets built up over years of playing, and she lets the ball come to her to a fair extent. So let's see what happens over here. So there's one step on the right. There it is. She's starting to rotate her body. A small little step on the left. Rotates the body even more. There's that full rotation you see. And now she's lunging forward. See, she started facing forward, and then she ended up rotating so that she could get in the right position to reach forward with her racket and put that momentum into the shot. She squares off, her hips are now facing the angle a little bit. She's leaning forward. She's still stepping, so you're seeing she's going to put this momentum and make contact with the ball shortly after she puts her front leg down. And here are two different types of shots. You're going to see Sobhy was more set. Sherbini is actually reaching and taking that ball in front of her. And what you're going to see is she's going to drop the racket face, she's going to open it up, and she's going to guide that ball into the front. So check this out. There, she's coming under, open racket face, and there's that guidance into that front court. And that's the momentum that she's still generating through that shot. And Sobhy's not really going to be close to that ball. She's stuck behind Sherbini. So tactically, that was a really good shot. And if she executed it well, it's a winner. So now let's do a quick side-by-side comparison. And what I'm showing you guys here are two different types of shots. So let's check this out. So now in this position, you guys have we've broken down Sobhy's positioning. She's set, it's a fairly loose ball. She's in a great position with all the knee angles and positions of the knee relative to the heel, back foot drag, all of it. Nice strong position, counterbalance with the arm is extended, and she's just putting that ball into that front court. On the flip side, you have Sherbini, who's made these minor adjustments. The ball is lower, it's in front of her, and she's just using that hand to kind of guide it in to that front corner. So what you're really noticing is that when the ball's way in front of you, it's more, you're using your momentum, but it's ending with that, like that soft touch with the hand, a little guidance, and you're coming under the ball. When you're set, you're still coming under and maybe cutting the ball. The different ways to hit drops, but what Sobhy's doing over here is that she's taking the ball not as far in front of her, so it's not as much of like this scoopy push. It's more of coming through it and guiding it into the front court. So what I wanted to show you guys here are two different ways to hit that drop shot from two different positions, from two different players with two different levels of pressure. And you can see this is the key takeaway. There isn't one single way of doing it. There's no one correct way. There are many ways to do it, and the most appropriate way to do it changes scenario to scenario. Now, for a beginner, that isn't the most reassuring thing to hear, because we're always taught, hey, hold the racket like this and always keep it open and always hit it like this. But the truth is that the more advanced you get, you have to start manipulating things depending on the position that you're in. So if you guys want to hear more about that and how you might want to manipulate things, I can talk a little bit more about that in future videos. But for now, I really wanted to reinforce the idea of patterns, reinforce and actually break down the technique from two different kinds of positions, depending on different degrees of pressure, different areas of the court. I hope you found value in that. As always, if you like it, give the thumbs up, put a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share it with others so we can spread the knowledge as best as possible. Have a great one, and I will see you in the next video.